finds a seeming parallel in the growing polarization of American politics. The percentage of landslide counties voting 60% or more for one presidential candidate increased from 26% in 1976 to 48% in 2004. Bishop, 2004. More and more, people are living near and learning from others who think as they do. One experiment brought together small groups of citizens in liberal Boulder, Colorado, and other groups down in conservative Colorado Springs to discuss global climate change, affirmative action, and same-sex unions. Although the discussions increased agreement within groups, those in Boulder generally moved further left, and those in Colorado Springs moved further right. Schade et al., 2006. Thus, ideological separation plus deliberation equals polarization between groups. The polarizing effect of interaction among the like-minded applies also to suicide terrorists. After analyzing terrorist organizations around the world, psychologists Clark Macaulay and Mary Segal in 1987, Macaulay again in 2002, noted that the terrorist mentality does not erupt suddenly. Rather, it usually arises among people who get together because of a grievance and then become more and more extreme as they interact in isolation from any moderating influences. Increasingly, group members, who may be isolated with other brothers and sisters in camps, categorize the world as us against them. Moghadam, 2005. Kirko, 2004. Suicide terrorism is virtually never done on a personal whim, reports researcher Ariel Marari in 2002. The like-minded echo chamber will continue to polarize people, speculates the 2006 U.S. National Intelligence Estimate. We assess that the operational threat from self-radicalized cells will grow. The internet provides a medium for group polarization. Its tens of thousands of virtual groups enable bereaved parents, peacemakers, and teachers to find solace and support from kindred spirits. But the internet also enables people who share interests in government conspiracy, extraterrestrial visitors, white supremacy, or citizen militias to find one another and to find support for their shared suspicions. McKenna and Barge, 1998. As Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr. said in 1,000 Days, 1965, one's impulse to blow the whistle on this nonsense was simply undone by the circumstances of the discussion. Groupthink. Does group interaction ever distort important decisions? Social psychologist Irving Janis began to think so as he read historian Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr.'s account of how President John F. Kennedy and his advisors blundered into an ill-fated plan to invade Cuba with 1,400 CIA-trained Cuban exiles. When the invaders were easily captured and soon linked to the U.S. government, Kennedy wondered in hindsight, how could we have been so stupid? One of the dangers in a White House, based on my reading of history, is that you get wrapped up in groupthink, and everybody agrees with everything, and there's no discussion, and there are not dissenting views. Barack Obama, New York Daily News, December 1st, 2008. To find out, Janis, 1982, studied the decision-making procedures that led to the fiasco. He discovered that the soaring morale of the recently elected president and his advisors fostered undue confidence in the plan. To preserve the good group feeling, any dissenting views were suppressed or self-censored, especially after President Kennedy voiced his enthusiasm for the scheme. Since no one spoke strongly against the idea, everyone assumed consensus support. To describe this harmonious but unrealistic group thinking, Janis coined the term groupthink. Janis and others then examined other historical fiascos: the failure to anticipate the 1941 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the escalation of the Vietnam War, the U.S. Watergate cover-up, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor accident, Reason 1987, and the U.S. Space Shuttle Challenger explosion, Esser and Lindorfer 1989. They discovered that in these cases too, groupthink was fed by overconfidence, conformity, self-justification, and group polarization. Truth springs from argument among friends, philosopher David Hume, 1711-1776. Groupthink surfaced again, reported the bipartisan U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee in 2004, when personnel involved in the Iraq WMD issue demonstrated several aspects of groupthink: examining few alternatives, selective gathering of information, pressure to conform within the group or withhold criticism, and collective rationalization. This groupthink led analysts to interpret ambiguous evidence as conclusively indicative of a WMD program, as well as ignore or minimize evidence that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction programs. If you have an apple and I have an apple and we exchange apples, then you and I will still each have one apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange these ideas, then each of us will have two ideas. Attributed to dramatist George Bernard Shaw, 1856 to 1950. Despite such fiascos and tragedies, two heads are better than one in solving some types of problems. Knowing this, Janice also studied instances in which U.S. presidents and their advisors collectively made good decisions, such as when the Truman administration formulated the Marshall Plan, which offered assistance to Europe after World War II, and when the Kennedy administration worked to keep the Soviets from installing missiles in Cuba. In such instances, and in the business world too, Janice believed, groupthink is prevented when a leader welcomes various opinions, invites experts' critiques of developing plans, and assigns people to identify possible problems. Just as the suppression of dissent bends a group toward bad decision, so open debate often shapes good ones. This is especially so with diverse groups whose varied perspectives enable creative or superior outcomes. Nemeth and Ormiston, 2007, page 2007. None of us is as smart as all of us.